Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to the video. So in this one, we're going to take a look at what played out in the stock market last week. Are we set up for a rally or another dip? Go over some important levels and technical patterns to watch for that, along with a bunch of individual trade ideas for the week ahead. As always, there are timestamps in the description. Let's go ahead and get into it. So taking a look at the S&P futures chart, this is the setup that we've been talking about for weeks now. The key pivot zone at 43.50 to 43.68 has determined direction where the market is bullish above and bearish below. And last week we went over the 42.07 to 42.42 zone, which was the backtest of the previous 6-month consolidation breakout that happened back in June. Along with this, the 200-day moving average also lined up in the zone, which made it that much stronger. This zone was a strong conviction buy zone that we talked about last week that, if it was tested, offers great risk reward for a short-term bottom at the minimum. And that is exactly what played out last week. As this zone was tested twice, it held up very strong both times. And then on Friday, the market got that violent rally higher. So zooming in a bit, 42.42 was the level that acted as key support and what started the rally off of on Friday. And then 43.05 was that intraday breakout point, which accelerated that squeeze higher. The S&P is now testing that key pivot zone once again, which is at 43.50 to 43.68, and also the major decision point to watch for in the week ahead. So just taking a very simple view of this zone, this is what started the breakdown from this head and shoulders pattern a couple weeks ago. It rejected on the first back test and is now back testing it once again as resistance. If it's able to break above next week, it is likely to see a much larger squeeze higher, and the current setup reminds me a lot of what played out in January of this year on the S&P. It isn't as large of consolidation as we had here, but it is very similar. And what played out here was very classic price action. It found strong support, built out a base before breaking out above the key resistance at 3,900. It had about a 100-point upside move from that breakout before pulling back to backtest the breakout level as new support, which held, leading to continuation higher. When an important breakout happens, this will often play out to backtest it as new support, which is what I'll be watching for in the week ahead. 43.05 was Friday's breakout point, so that would be the big spot to watch for a backtest as new support before potentially setting up for continuation higher. If it was to break back below 43.05, that would be the time to get cautious again, but as long as it's able to hold above there, this is setting up for a larger rally higher, in my opinion. So now getting into some trade ideas for the week ahead, starting out with AMD, which is the one that we went over last week. So this has been setting up in a 4-month-long falling wedge / bull flag pattern, and we finally got the clean breakout move on Friday. You will often see these breakout moves in individual stocks at the same time that indexes break out, and I wrote about this in the newsletter a couple weeks ago for those who are interested in subscribing. It is 100% free and linked in the description. Depending on what the broad market does next, this could backtest the trendline as new support, but as long as it holds above there, the breakout is intact, and the next targets above to look for are 108.9 to 109.51, 111.65, and then 115.8 to 116.5. So another one that I'm watching for as a dip buy / possible knife catch play is Enphase Energy, ticker symbol ENPH. So this is testing the bottom of this key long-term zone at 108.5 to 129, and it's held up with higher lows for 3 consecutive days now. The lower part of the zone at 108.5 to 113.2 is the strongest support, and each time it's been tested historically, it has resulted in large upside moves to follow. And zooming in, it also has this well-defined trendline resistance, which can act as an upside pivot on the break above. Enphase is one that I'm watching as a long opportunity in the week ahead, and could either place a stop loss below recent lows at 111.44 or below the bottom of the zone at 108.5, and breaking above the trend line can start that upside move where 129 would be the first target above. Another close watch for me in the week ahead is Carvana, ticker symbol CVNA. So this is set up in this multi-year cup and handle pattern below the 57 to 58.2 key resistance in breakout zone, and also potentially setting up for an upside move to retest that zone once again. So zooming in, we can see that it's built out this tight falling wedge pattern, which is similar to the last rally it saw from the mid-30s up to 57, and now potentially setting up for a similar move if it's able to break out and follow through. In the bigger picture, if and when it's able to break the 57 to 58.2 zone, this will set up for a larger leg higher with 97.5 to 100 as that big target zone above. And Tesla stock is one that we've been talking about for weeks now, but this pattern is one that should be at the top of everybody's watch list. This 2+ year long falling wedge will result in a huge move once it does break, and it continues to get very, very tight. Zooming in, I'm watching 260 to 262.5 into next week to potentially act as an upside trigger above, which can lead to a test of 280, and then the long-term trend line and breakout trigger a little bit above there at 282 to 283 into next week. On the downside, 240 to 241.9 is the key support zone, and if we were to see the downside scenario, that trend line would likely line up with around 240 when it was to be tested and act as that large breakdown trigger if it was to break below. So my lean into next week would be bullish though, and we are likely to see a massive move on this stock very, very soon. But as always, we have to weigh every scenario, and it could just as easily happen with the break to the downside, which of course would be tradable as well. So thank you guys for watching. I will be out of town next weekend, but I will see you guys the weekend after that. For anybody interested in joining the private Discord chat, that is the first link down in the description to get my personal trade alerts, nightly watch list, and I answer any questions you have in there. I will catch you all next time. Good luck trading this week, and peace out.